Hello, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's been a busy season for you, but you did manage to get something done on tech and AI this year. You managed to pass the Transparency and Frontier Artificial Intelligence Act. It's really, really hard to get a Frontier AI bill actually passed. The US Congress has not been able to do it. So tell us your secret. How did you get it over the finish line?
Sure, well, thank you for having me. And just to be clear, Congress has not passed a data privacy law, social media law, deepfakes law, net neutrality law.
That I know.
And so for all of those things, we've taken care of that here in California. And so sometimes when people say, hey, handle it at the federal level, I think, yeah, that'd be great, but it hasn't happened. So, in California, we're very fortunate that we're the beating heart of a lot of tech innovation, including AI, and AI particularly here in San Francisco. And so in the absence of federal action, I think there's an awareness that California has a huge role to play as the heart of innovation, as the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world, depending on the day. We can really set the standard in so many ways. And so there is a growing awareness of that in the legislature, and so we've been able to pass a number of laws, various aspects of AI challenges. And on this bill, it was a 2-year journey, and last year our first effort with Senate Bill 1047 was fairly explosive. When I introduced that bill, and we had really tried to socialize it with a lot of people before we introduced it, so no one would be surprised. And it was very quiet at first, and then it just exploded. I thought it would be a sort of standard tech regulation bill where there's conversations and you figure it out. And what I realized is that it triggered an important conversation around what do we mean when we say we want to encourage both innovation and public safety, that they're both really important. And threading that needle is really hard. And so after the governor vetoed last year's bill, we just kept working, and I'm really appreciative that the governor and his working group did some really good work, and we were able to absorb that work into our bill and get it done. So it was a good result.
And let me just say, compared to Washington, people can work on bills for 10 years. And it doesn't happen. So in 2, not such a bad effort. But.
Well, I've had other unrelated subjects bills where I've had to do 3 efforts over an 8-year period to get it done. So it can always take a long time.
And we know that the first bill did not make it across the finish line, but SB 53 did. So throughout this process, you were working with a lot of tech companies who had all different sorts of opinions about what the bill should and shouldn't look like. What was the most surprising thing to you about sort of facing the all-powerful tech lobby and the role they actually could play in shaping legislation?
Well, I mean, what we learned, and I've seen this with other industries too, is that industries are not always fully aligned.
Exactly.
And so we had different folks in industry who had very different perspectives, including, for example, Anthropic, who mostly endorsed the bill last year and fully endorsed the bill this year, but other tech companies and investors who were at least open-minded in engaging. And there were some ideas that they had that we were like hard no, that's not going to happen.
Can you tell us any of them?
I'll keep that to myself.
All right.
But there were other ideas that they had that were very actually good ideas. Because for me, when I pass any law that's going to regulate industry, whether it's the healthcare industry or housing or technology, I want to get it right, and I want it to be as easy to implement as possible. I'm not one of these people who are like, I just want to make your life hard. I want to accomplish the goal in a way that is as streamlined and easy for industry as possible without having make work. And so I appreciate it when folks will come forward and say, hey, we may or may not like what you're doing, but the way you have it drafted is going to make it 3 times as hard as it needs to be. And we'll take a look at it, and if they're right, we're happy to make that change to make it work better.
So that's one example of sort of feedback from a tech lobby or a group that can work, that is constructive and helps you make the bill better. But in what instance do you have to sort of say to your fellow lawmakers, okay, they've made their point clear, but we're still going to do what we're going to do, and we kind of just have to say, thank you for coming in, but we're not doing it.
Yeah, I think, when you have the folks who say, hey, don't do this because we should do it at the federal level, but then we say, but you just killed this at the federal level, and by the way, you're openly supporting a federal preemption of AI regulation that without any federal alternative. And so that happened during when I authored California's net neutrality law. The telecom and cable companies were like, no, let's do this at the federal level, when months before they had persuaded Trump's FCC to eliminate federal net neutrality protections. So my colleagues are savvy, and they definitely get that. And I think they're pretty good at discerning what are the real objections and what are the fake objections. Sometimes you have, and we saw this in this fight, the sort of suggestions, well, maybe we'll leave California if this passes. And I think most of my colleagues understand that that's probably not a thing, that even when we went through the years of this, like all these companies are leaving California, even Elon, who made such a big show of leaving California, but then he expanded in California.
Yeah.
And so I think my colleagues understand that.
You're like, all right, that's an empty threat.
Yeah.
So for people out there, whether in this audience or just your everyday constituents, what will be the biggest tangible effect for people using AI once SB 53 goes into effect?
It's, well, I think the most tangible way is the part that was the least controversial part of this, which I think is exciting, is it creates something called CalCompute, which is a public cloud that will try to democratize access to compute. And that, I think it's very exciting. And in the bill, we're not, because of the California Constitution, we can't dictate what the UC does, but the bill has an invitation to UC to host it. And multiple UC campuses have already come to me saying, we want to host it. So and that'll be a public-private partnership, and I'm really excited about that. And that will help, not the general public, but for a lot of founders and just people who don't have a lot of resources. It'll hopefully increase access to compute. I think when it comes to AI, when you talk to the public is excited about aspects of it, like the idea this could cure diseases, create powerful new antibiotics, help us solve climate change, make life smoother for people in a lot of ways. And a lot of people get that, and they like that, and they're excited about the innovation that's happening, and they don't want to stop that innovation. But people are also concerned about what are some possible impacts. And in SB 53, we're focused on catastrophic risk. But when people, they don't want their daughter to show up in a deepfake revenge porn that gets spread around their school. They don't want to have their bank be the subject of a cyber attack that is made easier because of a powerful model. They don't want to have even more efficient misinformation on the internet than we already have. And so they want us to not stop the innovation. They want the innovation to happen, but they want us to figure it out. And so for this, hopefully people will feel like, okay, government is actually stepping up in a light touch way to say, let's at least have these labs be transparent about what their safety practices are, because they've all said that they're engaging in safety practices. And so this will at least shine a light on it and create an incentive for maybe current or future labs that don't care about safety. I think the labs today largely do care about safety. A lot of the people in these companies care deeply about safety, but we don't know what's going to happen in a year, 2 years, 5 years. And so giving the public that peace of mind that we're at least going to have continual transparency around safety practices.
Is there anything that got dropped from SB 1047 to SB 53 that you really regret or you wish was still in the bill?
I mean, there are different bills. The two pieces that are the same is CalCompute that I just mentioned, and then the whistleblower protections. And the whistleblower protections are actually quite important because we have existing whistleblower law here and around the country, but to be protected as a whistleblower in a company, you have to be reporting a violation of the law. And here, when we're talking about safety practices, it's not violating the law, it's just creating a big safety risk. And so this is a new approach to whistleblowers, and that was very similar to what we had in SB 1047. But the heart of the bill shifted. In SB 1047, it was more of a liability approach, that requiring companies to perform safety testing on large models before they deploy them. And if they don't do that testing and then something bad happens, the Attorney General could hold them accountable. SB 53 is not about liability, it's about transparency and safety practices. Obviously, I pursued SB 1047 all the way to the governor's desk, so I thought it was a reasonable approach. The governor disagreed, and so we took a different approach.
I want to pivot to Capitol Hill. You're running for Congress for Nancy Pelosi's old seat. And I'm wondering, this is something I think about all the time as a tech reporter. Is tech and AI something that resonates with voters? Is it a bread and butter issue that people care about on the campaign trail? And is talking about AI and AI safety going to be part of how you run your campaign?
In San Francisco or outside of San Francisco?
Both.
The beautiful thing about, well, there are a lot of beautiful things about San Francisco. Representing San Francisco, it's an amazing place to do politics because people really know what's going on and what you're doing, and people pay attention and are engaged. I'll walk down the street and someone will yell from across the street, "Make sure you vote for for AB 972."
They yell at you?
Yeah, they know the bill numbers. And so, and especially when it comes to technology, I mean, I'm doing big tech policy, representing people who are so much smarter than I am on tech, who are like uber global geniuses,
like these folks?
Nobel laureates, and so on. And so it's very humbling in a way. But the good thing is, like, even when we were doing SB 1047, the industry was so opposed. On a regular basis, I would have like engineers come up to me on the street and say, "Okay, my employer doesn't like your bill, but I like it a lot, and thank you for doing it." And so people really know and they understand here. That's probably less so elsewhere. You know, I think AI and tech policy is something that people care about. It is not the same intensity as the cost of housing and the cost of healthcare and secret police grabbing your neighbors and sending them to gulags in El Salvador. Those things probably resonate at a more intense level, but people still care, even though it might not always be the thing that they're voting on.
Do you think that it connects well to the affordability issue and people who are worried about job security and data centers being built in their backyards? How does it fit into that larger picture that Democrats are trying to focus on?
Yeah, I think that in terms of, there are ways that AI will make people's lives so much better. And there's a story to tell there, like, for example, curing diseases that were considered incurable, or coming up with new medical technologies that will make delivery of healthcare less invasive, more cost-effective, and so forth. And so there are all these ways where AI can make people's lives better, more affordable, let you focus on the things that matter the most. There are other aspects that I think are real challenges, and the workforce issue is a big one that I have not heard anyone express a really good approach to it. Technology has always resulted in changes to work, and elimination of certain kinds of jobs, creation of other jobs, but it's been on a much longer timetable. So I'm making this up to an extent, but I think it's probably mostly true. When the printing press was invented, I'm going to say it probably took, 100 years for it to deeply impact work. It was probably very slow moving. When the cotton gin, or when some of these technologies come into effect, it takes a long, long time. Even the personal computer probably took a decade or two to really start impacting, the number of, administrative assistants or whatever who would have jobs. And even the smartphone, it probably took a good decade to really start changing work. This is potentially dramatically changing work and eliminating big categories of jobs in a matter of months or years. When you look at 7 million people, I think it's 7 million people who drive for a living in this country. When you look at the white collar impacts, which we've never really had before, that it's a lot of jobs. It's a lot of good paying jobs, of middle class jobs, in addition to lower income working class jobs. And I don't think society or government has really grappled with what that transition looks like, because just telling people, oh, don't worry, we'll retrain you, like to a 53-year-old accountant whose job is just evaporated, that's a tough thing to convince them is real. And so it's really, and universal basic income, which I know some people advocate, and I'm someone who thinks universal basic income can be a really good thing, but that is not the global solution, right? To say to people, you're not going to have to work anymore. No, we're just going to pay you. First of all, I'm skeptical that we're ever going to be able to pay at the level that would be needed. There's also that old saying, idle hands is devil's workshop. Human beings were not, in my view, designed to just not do anything. And while some people whose jobs are phased out, even if they have some level of income, will go on to do creative, great things, it can lead to other societal problems. So it's a huge issue. It's one that we have not grappled with, and it's happening really fast. Yeah,
I mean, we're running out of time, but what I keep noticing is many people are getting laid off at companies all across the economy, and a lot of leadership is attributing it to AI, but we still don't quite know how much AI is changing those jobs, yet people are getting laid off in the meantime while we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and it's always hard to know why they're doing it. I think a lot of these layoffs are not necessarily, at least as AI related as they're saying. And I think you also have, corporations upscale and downsize for a million different reasons. And so, I don't think it's the case for all of these tech layoffs in particular, but some, we know that, coding is, AI is getting better and better at coding.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of jobs. And not just a lot of jobs, but if you look at the amount of effort and resources that have been put into teaching children how to code and young people how to code, because that's the future and you can have a great job, and then all of a sudden coding is not what it was.
And one fun thing before we go, what's your top use of AI personally?
My top use of AI, I do, it's just basic. It's great to just be able to get just a basic summary answer to a question, and then you can go to find the links and verify it later. So I'm super basic, but
that's okay.
I love getting that high level summary. It's at least a starting point, but it's so important for it not to be the end point, because sometimes it tells you the darndest things.
And that's what a policymaker is gonna tell you about AI.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.